Hey guys, so I'll be reading another one of my favorites, Fancy Nancy, illustrated by Robin Price Glasser and written by Jane O'Connor. This is my room before I made it fancy. This is my room now. I love being fancy. My favorite color is fuchsia. That's a fancy way of saying purple. I like to write my name with a pen that has a plume. That's a fancy way of saying feather. And I can't wait to learn French because everything sounds better in French. Nobody in my family is fancy at all. They never even ask for sprinkles. And then this is them at the ice cream shop. There's a lot they don't understand. Lace trim socks do help me play soccer better. Sandwiches definitely taste better when you stick in frilly toothpicks. A princess is supposed to keep her tiara on. What's a fancy girl to do? I ask my doll, Maribel. Her full name is Maribel Lavina Chandelier. Then I get an idea that is stupendous. That's a fancy word for great. Maybe I can teach my family how to be fancy. I make an ad and stick it on the fridge. And then that ad says, "Learn to be fancy. Lessons from Nancy starting today. Easy, fun, and free." Soon, there is a knock on my door. My family saw the ad and they want to get started right away. And then right up here, I've got Fancy Nancy's list of fancy words. So the plain word is yellow, and the fancy word for yellow is gold. The plain word is leather, and the fancy word is patent leather. And the plain word is glasses, and the fancy word is sunglasses. She's got different stuff on the floor, so you can know the difference between plain and fancy. The trouble is, my family doesn't own any fancy clothes. That's okay. I go find, what is the fancy word? Oh yes, some accessories. Ooh la la! My family is posh. That's a fancy word for fancy. My mom twirls in front of the mirror. Why don't we go somewhere fancy tonight? How about dinner at the King's Crown? Dad suggests. Wow, my parents are acting fancier already. May I escort you lovely ladies outside? The limousine is waiting. My dad is our chauffeur. That's a fancy word for driver. When we arrive at the King's Crown, everyone looks up. They probably think we're movie stars. That's them walking in. I am so proud of my whole family. They eat with their pinkies up and call each other darling. For dessert, let's have parfaits, my mom says. That's French for ice cream sundaes. Amazing! My mother knows French. When our parfaits are ready, I curtsy and say, merci. And that's the French word for thank you. I carry the tray like a fancy waiter. The tray does a double flip. I don't feel fancy anymore. I want to go home. After I get all cleaned up, I put on my dressing gown. Those are fancy words for bathrobe. I feel much better. I'm ready for a parfait. I tell my parents, thank you for being fancy tonight. I love you, my dad says. I love you, my mom says. All I say back is, I love you, because there isn't a fancy or better way of saying that. That's them tucking them in. The end.